Yeah, 22 I see already.
So I guess we're ready to start. Good evening to everyone. My name is Mariana Semiotic, and I'm the member of Middle East Association, and also I'm the student of Geographic Faculty of Lomonosov State University. So Middle East Association is glad to wait a second. So Middle East Association is glad to welcome you on our another meeting. And tonight online meeting is organized together with the Qatar Arabic Language Center, a part of Qatari-Russian Center for Cooperation. So we're welcome to represent our hero of tonight, Dr. Mountaser Al-Hamad, Associate Professor at the Qatar University and Fellow of the Higher Education Academy in the UK. The topic of the lecture is A Word is Enough Twice, that is based on the book Nod and Gesture, Nonverbal Communication in Qatari Culture. So before we start, I have to represent Andrei Igorov, the Director of Office of Knowledge and Innovation of Qatar Arabic Language Center. So Andrei, I will give you the floor to listen.
Hello everyone, and thank you Mariana and Murat for this joint event. And I would like to welcome Dr. Al-Hamad. Actually, just a few words about our organization. We are founded by the Embassy of Qatar to the Russian Federation with the goal to develop relations between Qatar and Russia in different fields, of trade, investment, cultural side, education, innovation, sport, and travel, all sides. And actually, all our activities is road to next year St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, where Qatar is the biggest country. And I must say, many people, ministries, including His Highness, will visit St. Petersburg and Russia just to present Qatar in its full. So our goal for now just to show to young generation in Russia how different and intellectual Qatar is. That's why within Qatari-Russian Center for Cooperation, there is Office of Knowledge and Innovation. And here our goal is to establish relations between universities and schools in Russia and Qatar. And actually, relations are going very well. Just a few days ago, there was signed another memorandum of understanding between Qatar University and High School of Economics, with just one example. And we keep going to make these relations. Also, within our organization, we launched Qatari Arabic Language Center, just to allow students to learn Arabic language. Offline, it will be launched beginning next year due to COVID situation. But in a couple of weeks, we are launching a website with online opportunities to start learning, studying Arabic language. Also, I would like to announce that tomorrow is the last day of Doha Arabic Language Prize, which is organized by Qatar University and Cultural Creative Agency, just to allow a few students to win and to go to study Arabic language in Qatar. So if you didn't apply, still one day left to apply. You can go to website dalp.online, Doha Arabic Language Prize. And one last thing to mention, tomorrow and during the next 9 days, there will be a special dessert in Cafe Mania in all the city, a special dessert called Desert Rose. It's presented by Qatar to all who will visit, and also you can taste this dessert and taste Arabic and Qatari coffee as well. So you're welcome. The last thing I would like to mention is to thank you, Russian Middle East Association, with whom we're organizing already second event, second lecture, and I hope we'll keep going together to promote Arabic culture, to promote Qatari culture as well. And now I just would like to welcome Dr. Al-Hamad.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your speech. But before this, I have to represent our president of Middle East Association, Murad Sadiqzadeh, and also he's a postgraduate master of School of International Regional Studies of Faculty of World Economy and Affairs of Higher School of Economics. So Murad.
Thank you so much. أهلا وسهلا أستاذ شرفنا. So frankly, I'm not a postgraduate, I'm a PhD candidate. And I'm also responsible for international cooperation in HSC, National Regional Studies School. If you want to make some events with HSC, we'll be grateful. So first of all, I want to thank all colleagues, especially my team from the Middle East Association, especially Mariana and Alina. Also our partners from Qatar Arabic Language Center. It's a great pleasure that we have already, as Andre mentioned, held a second meeting. And I hope that in future there will be more interesting events. And one more interesting moment that it's about maybe 5 events organizing by our organization about culture. So we have a lot of meetings about politics, economics, and something like that. But frankly, the majority of researchers understand. If you want to understand the situation in Arabic world, not only in Arabic world, in Middle East, you should firstly to learn to study the because when you understand the culture, you understand the person. And after that, you can make a discussion, establish a dialogue. And it's so important for us because our main aim of our organization is to establish a connection between the people of Arab world, of Middle East region, North Africa, and Russia. Because only through this humanitarian ties will improve our relations, will explain to Russian societies that Arabs and they are like the people with warm heart, and that it's so interesting and it's so amazing to connect, to communicate. So thank you so much for this event, Dr. Al-Hamad. Thank you to be with us, and Dave for you to also be with us. Mariana, now the floor is yours. Thank you so much for this.
So I guess we're ready to listen to Dr. Mountaser.
Thank you so much, Maria, right? Mariana. And thank you all for being here today, taking the time to join me. If I could take the share screen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Just
That's good. That's good. Okay. Can you see that, Marina?
not yet. Oh yeah, now it's good.
Okay. And this way, is it better?
Yeah, much more better.
Okay. So without any further ado, I would like first of all thank Qatar Center for Arabic Language in Moscow for inviting me for this event. And I'd like to thank in particular Marina Kabash for arranging for this. I would like to thank Elena, Andre, Murad, Marina for your efforts of making this happening. However, I must state that I'm very privileged to be amongst you talking about Qatar and talking about Qatari culture. I do believe, as Andre rightly said, that this is part of a long and wider project for to introduce Qatari culture and Arabic language to the Russian Federation, which is clear effort by His Excellency Ambassador Al-Atiyah, who showed active role in the in the recent period, and I hope that it will be we will have a very productive and nice event in June 2021 with the Economic Forum, where Qatar is going to be the guest in that forum. This is probably a couple of years ago. We had Qatar Russia Year of Culture, where as you can see visually, the artist had some visual aids to show both cultures. This is from Qatar. It's called Fanar, and the rest is, you know it a lot. I'm going today to talk about Qatar, history, culture, people, introduction about nonverbal communication, and Qatar semiotics and nonverbal communication. And this guy on the side is me, and this is a sign of welcome, as you can see all. So I do welcome you all, and my approach in this presentation is where I would try to use the visuals more than talking and showing text. Probably I will be a commentator on my slides. On the other hand, I might skip some slides, not talk much about them, because they're there just while I was compiling the slides. I found it useful probably to have some slides where it would give a proper foundation for what I'm going to talk about, but it's not necessarily because we're short of time, as I was briefed by Marina earlier this morning, that we have only 40 minutes to go through. Anyone who would see these images would wonder about when and how and who does these things, and what do they represent, and what does it signify to have someone with a long hair this way, or what's the Qatari dress look like, when to put your headdress this way or this way. We have a lot of questions, and what we will try to start with is to talk about the language in general, because the language is the main vehicle for communication. So language and communication. So the language and how to communicate with others is not necessarily always by speaking, reading, listening, and writing. It goes beyond that to semantics and the context, and what we call semiotics and pragmatics. Semiotics and pragmatics are the visuals that we see, and pragmatics, the cultural side of the language, because you won't understand a language of a person without understanding the culture, the history of that person. So in order to talk to someone and give a proverb, the proverb might not mean much if we analyze it to the basic elements, to the basic words, because the words might not mean much. By me saying, as example, ala rasi, on my head, it's meaningless for anyone. But if I say it to an Arab, they would understand that I'm showing respect, and I'm offering my readiness to do what that person is suggesting for me to do. So I'm saying ala rasi, whether I couple it with a gesture or without a gesture. So it's not only about the words. The words are part of the language, but it's about the culture. It's about what we do. And as you can see, as an Arab, I will keep moving my hands and arms, and I will talk with my hands. Unlike other cultures where people won't do that. So language, language somehow it's a vehicle to take us to the other, and we don't look at the other as a person who is different from us in terms of enmity. No, in terms of building bridges and in terms of cooperation and collaboration. And that's the best thing humans can do, where they would appreciate their differences, yet they would build on that in terms of creating common grounds of working together, where respect is the main term, regardless of their differences, because we'll continue to have differences, whether on a culture's level or on a personal level, between a person and his very close people around him. We will always have differences. So it's not about picking on the differences, it's about appreciating the differences and working together on the common grounds. So beyond words, we always say that it's not about what we see, it's not about what we read. And nonverbal communication, many people would confuse it with body language or with sign language or with emotional expressions. Nonverbal communication is mainly message that is being deliberately sent by a person to another person. So while body language is our analysis to somebody's action, that analysis, we base it on our previous experiences, and we base it sometimes, some of those skillful people or those who would come and interpret how this president or that president did this, while as example, scratching his behind his ear or holding his arms this way, and they would start analyzing that based on some psychological interpretations, while the nonverbal communication is a direct message that is understood by the receiver and deliberately made by the sender. So language is a sender from one side and a receiver from another side. So if I'm talking to you, I'm using a language now. Okay, this language, I analyze it and send it deliberately. I want to send a message. This message is being received by you because you understood the language and the elements of the language and the syntax of the language. Exactly, that's how it is when I use this thumbs up. Thumbs up, you would understand it that I'm commending you or I'm giving you an okay sign. How did you analyze that? Because I meant it and you understood it. It's somewhere stored in your brain where you can analyze this particular sign. However, emotional expressions, these are basic emotional expressions. Darwin had a very thorough research about the emotional expressions by human and animal, and he tried to make an analogy between them. Sign language is totally a different matter. It has its own syntax. Sign language is for deaf or audio impaired, hearing impaired people, where they would use certain language. So the nonverbal communication is a body language sending a message by posture, touch, facial expression, gaze, how I look at person, posture, tone of voice, and social distance. As we will see, we will build up this until we come to exactly ask the question of what's nonverbal communication. This was dealt with since very, very long time by many researchers, whether Arabs or non-Arabs. As example, Al-Jahid thinks that the word, the sign, the computation, and the script, and the situational context, all of these would form the verbal and non-verbal meanings. Charles Darwin was a very early researcher who dealt with emotions, as we said, but Ferdinand de Saussure described the system of signs that express ideas, and he was the first person to coin the term semiology. And semiology is the language by the signs. So the communicative competence in any language, it's not only about words, as we said, it's about to use these words and these signs effectively. So it's the knowledge of the language, the tactics of the language, and the ability of using that very effectively. Hall and Hall is a very important figure when it comes to nonverbal communication. He specified that in his very beautiful book. He had a few books, but I love his book, Beyond Cultures. Yes, I can see it in my library. Luckily, with the glasses, I can see it. It's about mainly nonverbal communication. He felt that there are 3 dimensions: time, space, and context, and we'll come to discuss that later on. If we look at this, what's the importance for any of you? Probably you're thinking, well, what is he talking about? Now, he's been taking us into this person and that person and what they said. How would I analyze that? I would say that the context is important. The context, our knowledge of the culture is important when it comes to certain cultures. As example, when we talk, just let me pick this. Yes. To certain cultures, as example, Japan and the Middle East are high context cultures. High context are normally we don't necessarily give specific wording for what we want to say. Sometimes someone from Switzerland or Germany might think that we are vague when it comes to saying what we want. If you say to an Arab, take an Arab for a cafe and say, would you like to have another coffee? They would say, well, don't bother yourself. Don't bother yourself might mean, okay, yeah, but they just don't say it. They don't say yes. These are somehow these are basic features of that culture, where we as Arabs are on the top with the Japanese and Latin Americans, and you would see that some people go down. If we take as example Russians, I believe from very little that I read about Russians, that they are not in the lower part of that diagram. They are more in the middle to the upper middle level. While so we have high context and implicit messages. Please go down. Yeah. So that would take us to the area of pragmatics. Pragmatics, understanding the language by understanding the context behind it. Context, we should understand the first of all, as Arabs say, خير الكلام ما قل ودل. The best of wording, the best of speech, what was short and what was significant. So and relevant. So this would take us through quantity, quality, and relevance. Obviously, the manner, as we will see when we talk about the face, is a very important feature of the language. However, the relevance theory that was developed and by Serber and Wilson, it took us thoroughly about the contextual and cultural assumptions that must be considered. So if we come now to conclude, what's the nonverbal communication? It's about time orientation, time system, and proximities, how much space I should leave between myself and the person next to me in that culture, in the Arab culture? Can I be closer to him in terms of distance? Semi-fixed features of the space and fixed features of the space. The fixed features of the space are those in terms of buildings, roads, and so on, and that would make part of us. So some may say that Arabs probably talk out loud because they live in open spaces. Traditionally, they used to live in open spaces, while others in closed spaces. Semi-fixed features are furniture, how to fix the furniture in an Arab house, where a non-Arab house might have different setting altogether. That's part of the culture. That's part of the communication that we should build between ourselves. As example, if you sit next to an Arab and cross legs and have the sole of the shoe and the face of the Arab, they won't be happy. They might stop that meeting or that gathering soon because they don't feel relaxed seeing the sole of a shoe of a person. So so all of that would take us to how to create the setting based on that, how to create a proper setting for an Arab lady and a group, say if we have a group of in a meeting, how to have a proper setting for a lady who would come there. Obviously, some don't mind, but others would mind. So it depends on how they're related to that particular culture. Then we will have the posture, the gesture, which is our main part, and facial expressions. We won't touch on that as much, and other forms like eye contact, the gaze. As example, is it fine to keep when I talk to someone to keep looking at his face or her face? Would it make a difference if I'm talking to a man or a woman? Would it be considered polite, as we will see with politeness? And the smell, as example, I remember when I was in the UK going to my supervisor because I felt that there is something wrong. I keep putting wearing perfume in the morning, and I feel that I'm like an outsider. I can't see that my colleagues do the same. So I went to my supervisor and I told him, "Excuse me, John, but I want to ask you about you English. How do you deal with the perfume?" So he told me, "Well, Mountaser, you need to do this, this, and this." So while perfume is a very important element in the daily life of an Arab, to an extent that some Qataris would have some bakhur. They in the morning they would stand and keep the bakhur coming from the incense of the bakhur coming from from below to fill their robes, their dishdasha or thobe. This is obviously someone from outside might think, wow, this is too much, or this is crazy. The voice, the tempo, the volume. I remember an Arab who got married to an American, and he told me that she was telling him that you talk out loud all the time. So until she went to visit his family, and she told me, "Excuse me, I want to talk to you." And she told me, "Do you know, I kept telling you that you're talking out loud, but now I understood." He told her, "What did you understand?" She said, "Well, you're 15 people in the room, and all of you are talking to each other. So you should have different patches of voices to let each other hear each other." So somehow she thought that this is a particular tactic by Arabs to talk out loud or different patches of voices, and the color and so on. So what's politeness? We can see in this. I love this card. I have this card. This card, one says help, and this guy, an English guy, he's very polite person. He didn't bother. But when he said, excuse me, sir, I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but I wonder if you would mind helping me a moment, as long as it's not it's trouble, of course. Obviously, this is too much, but this is part of the language that we use. And the politeness theory, it's about face, and Arabs are too much into the face. Losing a face to someone is a no-no, and politeness is a major thing for us to make a relationship and to establish a relationship and to maintain a relationship. So it's very important for us to keep the face and to have some politeness strategies. So there are some positive face and negative face, as you can see in the slide, which I will just skip. As for Qatar, which is the language context, our language context that we will talk about today, we're talking about Qatar. Qatar is 2.5 million. This was in 2010 when we had the census, but now it's 2.5 million with 10 to 12% Qataris, and probably out of the whole population, we have less than 40%, shy of 40% Arabs. So you have a lot of non-Arabic elements in Qatar and a lot of non-Qatari element in Qatar, cultural elements. So in the face of that, and understanding that Qatar is a very attractive place for many people because of its growth in terms of economy, and it's one of the major contributors to many projects around the world, but it has its own wealth that's mainly biogas and other investments around the world. Qatar managed to be a champion of liberalizing the media in the Arab world by establishing Al Jazeera channel, who managed to become the main channel in the Arab world and the most viewed channel in the Arab world since it was established, which is very difficult to maintain by any news broadcasting company. Then Qatar, because it tapped onto the 2022 World Cup, it established beIN Sports, which is now one of the main providers for sports events in the world. However, Qatar faced terrible blockade or sanction by some countries around it, Gulf countries, since 2017. However, in terms of Qatari dialect, we have standard Arabic, Gulf Pidgin, other Gulf dialects, and so on. So when we talk about the language, we have the national language, which is the Fusha, i.e. the standard Arabic, and the national or dialectical language of Qatar, which has been somehow smoothed down since the 60s. It's smoothed down and it's closer more and more towards the Fusha or the standard Arabic because of the education and many other factors, including the having a lot of entry from people coming to Qatar. So back to this, Qatar in terms of context, as we said, that Qatar is a high context, and Qatar, or the Qatari culture, is polychromic culture. Polychromic culture in terms of time, which means that we are lax with time. So, like I believe that we can say that I will see you in the afternoon, no problem, or I will see you tomorrow evening, no problem. While other cultures might specify the time in particular, or I will see you just after 7. But other cultures might set up, the German as example, they would set up the starting time and when they would finish. I recall a very funny story for me as an Arab. When I was in the Arab world before going to the UK, we used to say English time when we want to refer to specific and very accurate time. So I would say, I will see you 5 English time. However, when I went to the UK, I felt that the English are not as strict with time as I thought. They are relaxed with 5 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depends on how important and official the meeting is. But I remember that one day in the departmental meeting at my university, one of the people said, well, let's start 1 o'clock German time. And I told him, hold on. I've wasted all of my life thinking that English are too keen to come on time. What's German time? They said, well, German time, you don't come 1 single minute late. And we know that we will start at 1 and we finish at 2 o'clock. Until I went to a trip to Japan, and in our way, we were a bit late. And in our way in the taxi, my fellow English colleague told me we are late, and it was almost 12:30. So we had almost 30 minutes to get to the university. And I told him, no, we will get on time. He said, no, we will be late. I told him, no, we will be 5 minutes, 5 to 1. So climbing the stairs, we will be at 1 o'clock. He told me, yes, in Japanese culture, this is late. We should be 10 minutes earlier to say, how are you? How's the weather? And so on. And we start on time. So even how are you and how is the weather? It's not part of our meeting. So this is about the cultures. And now you might think, well, Mountaser said that the Japanese are on top of high context, but Japanese, they have, in terms of time, they have 2 systems, one in the social system, in the social sector, and one in the official sector, according to Hall and according to many researchers. And basically, in their official life, they borrowed the German time after the World War, and in their life, they still have the hierarchy, and they still have honoring the seniors, and so on and so forth, which is polychronic culture and not monochronic culture. Sorry for leaving these slides as they are. These slides are I borrowed them from CISRI's survey dealing with the identity. So many Qataris think that the garment and their outfit is part of their identity. They think that the poetry. So this is the garment, and this is the color, the maroon color, and so on. So the features that they believe, Islam, Qatari dialect, Arabic language, and mosques, all of these are features related to their identity. So they believe as well that Arabic language takes a very significant part of their identity when they describe their identity, as you can see from the green side, that whether they speak other languages and whether they prefer to speak other languages. So the Qatar established Al-Rayyan TV, and even in Ida'at Qatar, Qatar Radio, we have different programs, mainly geared towards protecting the national identity of Qatar. Even in the charity work, we have the dialect coming there and representing the culture, the maintaining and taking care of the different sports, traditional sports. Now, back to the nonverbal communication in the Qatari culture, which is our main part. Why am I getting this? Top 5 companies started in a garage. Well, even my book started in a garage. So like Amazon, HP, Google, Apple, Walt Disney, and many other companies, my book started in a garage. Actually, I was arranging the papers of my late dad, who was a professor of Arabic language and culture and Hebrew. I was arranging his papers, and out of a sudden, I found some papers related to nonverbal communication in the Quranic text. So I thought, why not to start something. And later on, I started this project about Qatari culture. However, we have cultural variants. So the same sign, which is this, it depends on how you say it in Arabic. It could mean something or something else. And we can recall different signs that would be probably sometimes embarrassing or to others, or rude to say, although in other cultures it could be okay, no problem. So, and I could refer you to many very nice videos, short videos on YouTube done by the bank MCSB, MCBS probably, yeah. So in the Gulf, we have, as you can see from the garment, they don't have the same bisht, although different, even in the different Qatari, in the different Gulf cultures, each one of them is putting on a different bisht. This is a photo from the past, and that really drove me crazy. And this was my head around that time when I started the project. I started the mind map and started taking the mind map further and further until I reached some 700 entries, and then limited them to less than 400 entries, which are represented in this book. So I will show you a video and probably rest my voice. Nope. Yeah. This is the name of the book, and it was published 2022, the first Arabic corpus of the first Arabic corpus. It has more than 400 entries with photos, and it is very important reference for Qatari culture. It's the only one in the Arab world. And basically, it's to safeguard the Qatari culture. It's a very important reference. And it will help different people, whether academics or people work in media, drama, authors. Even recently I've seen an artist who's using it mainly to draw the right images. So mainly this is the book. However, the book shows the different outfits of the Qataris. When to have this is, as example, I continue to describe and elaborate on each photo. I would have a section discussing the different outfits, head outfits. This is, as example, official. This is more laxing. This doesn't come with a bisht. As example, bisht is for really official times. This is for the shepherds or some officials. This is the people of the sea. They would have this. This is in the winter. They will have farwa. Outside, and it comes with a dark thobe or a dark garment, mainly because when it's cold enough to have this this shawl or this headscarf, people would wear different colors, and they don't go to the desert in white clothes. So as for the women outfit, this shows us different women outfit. This is very interesting one. It's called battula. As for the battula, in the past, Qatari women used to put it on after getting married. Before getting married, normally they would be barefaced. The Qatari greeting and Qatari culture is a very welcoming culture where people would greet each other in different ways. So Qatari greeting, we will have different ways of greeting, depends on the setting and depends on seniority of the person, and different variants that we will have a look at later on. Kissing a hand is part of the Qatari culture, but obviously for a senior, a father or a grandfather, and normally it doesn't happen other than that. The touching the noses of each other, or kissing the shoulder of the Amir is part of the Qatari culture. This is recent, since the 80s. It started in the Qatari culture. As example, how to be welcomed and how to understand welcoming in the Qatari culture, that was presented in the book. Full part of the book was about how to receive the coffee and how to say thank you or I want more without saying a single word. Because if you take the coffee and then return the small cup as is, they will pour again. So until you shake it, they will continue to pour in, even if you. So normally you will need to shake it, and there are other polite gestures to be used with the food. As example, eating with your hands. Can I eat with my hands? Can I ask for a spoon? What are the different ways of being polite around a meal? How to pour and how to introduce. As you see, this guy is holding the cup in his right hand, and this guy is holding the cup in his right hand. It's impolite. It's not polite to introduce something to another person in your left hand. And all of this will be presented to people. As example, this guy is saying ala rasi, and this girl is saying min ayuni, from my eyes. Both are saying at your service, and we will do what you're asking for. So, but in a very polite way. And they won't say, I will do this for you in words, because otherwise they will be Swiss or Germans, but they're not. They're Arabs. So the pronouns, it's to be coupled with facial expressions, and again pointing to oneself. This is almost common between cultures, but we will see things, as example, adjectives, that although some of them will be common between cultures, others won't be common between cultures. And like languages and dialects, will keep narrowing things until we would have some Qatari specific things. Marina, please do not hesitate to ask me to stop or to give me a time if you want me to stop, because I cannot keep the time. I'm not seeing the time. Okay.
I think you have about 5 minutes to.
5 minutes. Then I will speed up. These, as example, this girl. If we tell someone this in Arabic, that means crazy. This intelligent. While this guy is in khruti. Khruti, that is meaningless. It's worthless. It's not serious. So this guy is saying that he's handsome, and it's up to my chin, up to my nose, married or engaged. I would, this one, he's swearing by his mustache. Again, other adverbs, on my nose, i.e. at your service, from my neck. It's like swearing that this person will do something. Verbs, we would use the gestures as verbs, asking or ordering someone, or using it that, okay, I will get you, or shway shway. Shway shway means slowly. So move slowly. Semiotic clues, this is, as example, someone showing he's grieving a loss. This guy is handsome, going to his work. This guy is preparing for an official meeting. This guy is a dasa. This this is from the past, and the various beards or shaving the beard or having a long beard, each one would have a meaning. Variants to be considered: personal space, so which space to leave between us and others, that's to be looked at, whether in greeting or in having a meal or comforting someone. There are different distances between inmates, personal, social, and public. There are some regional variances between Bedouins and urbans. As example, this is a Bedouin greeting, while this is an urban Bedouin greeting. So yet they enter people nowadays, because Qatar, as we said, is 10% of the whole population. People might do both. Gender variant, so there are things that could be done by men and not by women, and things done by both genders. So you can't, it would be embarrassing to see someone saying, having the gesture of pregnancy, or having the lulalish signal, which is just thrilling and happiness, showing happiness, or sitting this way. A man sitting this way, it's really indecent. Yet a woman sitting in a car this way is indecent as well. So seniority variances as well. Who would kiss the nose of a senior? You cannot warnings, or you cannot warn a senior. You should be extremely polite with the senior. How to sit on a meal: seniors will sit first, then the circles, and that's why you would see a big dish. However, that dish would be somehow, nothing would be wasted, because different circles would keep coming to the same dish, but seniors would come first, then who would follow them in seniority, and so on. And this some vanishing NVCs, some nonverbal communication that vanished from the culture because of time, or because we have some government. In the past, people used to go to the sheikh, the tribal sheikh, and ask for their rights or ask for some support. Now we have, because we have a system and government, so people tend to go to the different governmental places. Some different gestures, including these, even on the food, pouring some grease on the hand of a guest, that's to show gratitude to that person. And some taboos. Qatari culture is the conservative culture which maintain faith and maintain politeness, and that's why in Qatari culture you would hardly see people showing bad gestures or sexually oriented gestures, because it is against politeness and against the faith and against the issue, the whole point of having a very conservative culture. So the last one is Corona effect. After Corona, we've seen that people tend to distance between themselves. But this was an interview back in March, April, probably, where I explained to a Russian media that this will not last for long. I hope that we will have a cure and a pandemic where all of us will get back to our normal life and deliver the lecture rather than distance lecturing and online, probably face to face. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mountaser. The lecture was informative, and it was mesmerizing to plunge into a world of nonverbal communication. And I'm also convinced that signs and gestures are essential part of the culture and understanding of each other. Sometimes it's a not obvious way to represent yourself, or maybe to transmit your intentions to someone. And it also was amazing to discover and explore the diversity of elements of Qatari culture, like men's and women's outfit, the greetings and gestures. And I guess sometimes these elements are far too different from Russian gestures in some cases. So I think it's time to ask the questions you can write in the chat or to ask in person, Dr. Mountaser. So while others are reflecting on after the lecture, I can start. So Dr. Mountaser, what are the steps followed to accomplish this book?
Sorry, would you say that again, please?
Yeah. What are the steps followed to accomplish this book?
Yes. Firstly, first thing, as you've seen, I was like the early man, collecting as much material as I can. That material probably I reached some 700 entries. Then after that, I started minimizing by using the grounded theory, which is a theory that we will use different variants and checking on the validity of these entries by asking consultants, different consultants, and having meetings with people checking on the validity of these gestures. Later on, I had I was lucky to have the Ministry of Culture in Qatar revising and reviewing that and suggesting few names to review my book, where I had a thorough discussion with some colleagues where probably, as you would understand, that sometimes I would agree or disagree with their ideas, but it was excellent way to revise and review my book, and luckily it was published as the first book to be published by Qatar University Press since it was established. So that was a very lucky gesture by Qatar University Press. So this took me about 7 working years on and off watching people in airport, in their majalis, watching people in the markets, keep taking notes, taking photos, asking for the ethical side of it, clearing the ethical side with the university and other people, taking their consent, taking photos for the models and finding the models, training the models. It was challenging, and I have to say that I learned a lot during this journey.
Yeah, that's an outrageous and deep work and research. And also, I have a second question. You used a lot the word non-verbal communication, but there is the similar word like the body language. Is there any difference between these two synonyms words?
Okay. Recently, I was with a friend of mine in Aspire Zone, which is very nice big park in Doha, and he wanted to take a photo of me having the torch tower behind me. So he told me, first photo I had my arms beside my body. So he's a professional photographer. He's a journalist and professional photographer. So he told me, no, Mountaser, hold your hands like this. So mainly I did that, and it was a very nice photo, and I was smiling in it. However, having your arms this way, this is by body language, is defense mechanism. While it depends on the situation and the context, because and the facial expression and many different factors, and it is analytical. So you would analyze it based on your assumptions rather than facts that you derive from the situation or from the understanding of the person himself and yourself. While this gesture, as example, if I go and see someone, as example, who I'm not happy with, and go and say, then I deliberately sent a message, non-verbal communication message that was 100% deliberate by me, clear message by me, sent to that person. That person would understand that this gesture is, I'm not happy with you, or I'm not going to do what you're asking me to do. But if I'm standing like this, probably I want to rest my arms on my body. I'm in a queue and I've been for long in the queue, and it doesn't mean that I'm doing anything. So I believe that the body language is too much into psychology, and sometimes, and it's about how good you are in analyzing the people's minds. And I don't believe that you would score more than 60% in that field. While nonverbal communication is 100%, it's a language.
Thank you for the answer. And also Alina wants to ask you a question.
Yes. مساء الخير.
مساء النور. أهلا يا ألينا.
And firstly, I would like to thank you for such an incredible and informative lecture. And I wonder, why did you choose this topic for your book and for your research at all?
Okay, as I said, I found some papers in the garage or the store of my father's house, late father's house, Allah yarhamu. So what I did, I tried to look at it, but later on, other projects came in between, and I left that aside. Later, as I mentioned in the introduction of my book, that what really triggered that into my mind was when I was driving in the streets of Doha. I came to a roundabout, and when I came to a roundabout, a guy who was speeding started flashing to me. Okay, so I thought that because I lived in the UK for 15 years, and that means that he's given me the way. When you flash in the UK to someone, that means it's okay to move. So what I did, immediately I tried to move, but I discovered later on that he was speeding and about to hit me. I understood that flashing in Qatar, it means that it's a no-no, don't even think about it. So I thought that it could be life-threatening, not only embarrassing when you do a wrong gesture, because I heard different stories by some of my friends. As example, in Italy, this is an embarrassing gesture, while in the Arab world, it means shway shway, okay, okay, you will get it, just hold on. So it is very polite way to ask someone to wait. But in the Italian culture, it's really rude and embarrassing to do. So that triggered me, and I thought that I'd like to do it, not only for me. I'd like to do it for the people coming to Qatar. I'd like to do it for the people of Qatar, for the following generations, to protect this culture, because this culture, with the invasion of some 90% of the people living in Qatar, invading this culture, this might fade away. Sorry for the mobile. I keep telling my students to switch their mobiles off when they join a lecture. It looks that I fell into that trap. So I wanted to do something that would last and would be some kind of a record at this stage, because I can reach out to those who lived before the time of expansion in Qatar and in Doha. So that was something that I would do for myself as a linguist, for the linguistic community and the academic community. Yet, what's more important, I wanted to do it for the Qatari people, for the young Qataris who would come later on, for the artists, for the producers, for the directors of movies, for a writer who would write a story and want to write the story in the right way. So for learners of Arabic from different cultures who would couple that with what they learned in terms of language, to couple it and know how to communicate with diplomats and for many others.
جزيلا.
عفوا.
So there is one more person who wants to ask the question. Maria holds up her hand. So we'll
Yes,
listen.
thank you. Good evening. I'm Maria and I'm an Arabic language student of the University of Bucharest from Romania. Mr. Mountaser, I think you remember me.
Ahlan Maria, yes, I do remember you from the lecture at Bucharest University a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, thank you. I would like to know if your book is available worldwide or at least online, so I could get it to Romania or only in Qatar.
Thank you for the question. Actually, this is very, very, like any author, I would love to have my book available everywhere. Luckily, I have very good publisher, Qatar University Press, who are very interested in publishing the book in different languages, including English, which the translation is almost done, and Russian. To your surprise, the Russian language is on the list, and we hope that soon enough we'll have the Russian translation done, because we're having a major event in Russia in June 2021. So we hope that it will be available in English and Russian soon. However, the Arabic version, I believe that it's available. On the platforms that Qatar University Press are using in the meantime. I'm not fully aware of their distribution plans. So, but I believe that it's available at Qatar University Press website at least, and some other companies and publishers.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So also I give the floor to Victoria, who holds up the hand.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. مساء الخير.
مساء النور يا فيكتوريا.
أولاً شكراً جزيلاً على محاضرتك ممتعة ومفيدة بكثير. I have a question. You talked a lot about Qatari culture and gestures, and even the differences between Khaliji countries, because usually Arabists, we have this region sections and we have the Khalij, but of course it differs from each country to another country. What are the starkest differences? Maybe you can see it more in the youth or maybe in the older generation between people living in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia, the neighboring countries. If you can answer, I would be most delighted to hear your answer.
Yes, yes, sure. It's the gestures or the nonverbal communication. It's like the languages and the dialects. So you will have the differences between the, say, family of languages, Slavic languages, and then you would have the Aric languages, the Germanic languages, and you will have Semitic languages. And in the Semitic languages, you will have Northwest Semitic, and you will have Eastern Semitic, and you have later on Arabic language as a language. Then in Arabic language, you will have dialects, ancient dialects and modern dialects. And in the dialects, you start wide and then narrow it down. So the Khaliji dialects are closer to each other, yet they still have differences. In a large country like Saudi Arabia, you have different dialects and different cultures. The eastern side of Saudi Arabia is closer to Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain's culture and dialect than the western part of Saudi Arabia, mainly because of proximities and distances. Because just imagine some 80 years ago how that was, how it influenced the culture, the dialects, etc. So you can recognize the dialects of Hijazi people compared to Ahsa'i people, which are on both sides of the peninsula. So when you come to Qatar as well, it has some different cultures. It has the Bedouin culture and the Hadari culture. And the Hadari culture, you have the Hadari culture and you have the people of the sea. So you can still come closer and closer between men and women. The way you use the language could be different from the way your brother uses the language. Even in the Slavic cultures, even in Russian language, yes, because you create your own communities. Although you're living in the same house, yet your counterparts, your friends, and so on, they will have influence on you. But the common things between the Gulf cultures is more than between Arab cultures. So say, if we have the gestures in common between Gulf cultures is, say, or the Eastern Gulf cultures, say 90% in common. If we go further to Jordan, we will find it probably 70% in common. But if we go to the Bedouin side of Jordan, we'll have it probably 75 to 80 compared to 70% in the cities, the urban culture. So all of that to be taken into consideration. And one thing is bridging all of these differences is education, media, and so on. So we're now in the culture of globalization, where I can, where I'm meeting you right now, okay, without the need to travel to Moscow. Okay, although I wish if I was in Moscow, I visited Moscow. I wish if I was in Moscow, but who knows?
أهلا وسهلا. In any time. Thank you so much. Allah yubarik fik. Shukran.
Shukran lak.
In addition, we have one more question in the chat, a question from Sarjun. I'm sorry if I pronounce the name incorrect. So the question is it easy to publish the same book about Russian culture if you live far from, or you must to live in Russia for many years?
Well, this is a tricky question. I don't know whether, thank you, Sir John, for the question. This is a very tricky question. I can probably I have the know-how, but to get into the specifics of the culture, you will need to have to immerse in that culture, to immerse, enrimas, fully immerse into that culture, to know the culture, to know some of the literature, the ways of how people behave, and so on. So I can probably do something on my own to the English culture. I would have more confidence than to the Russian culture, because I lived there. Yet I won't be 100% confident. I will need to have a lot of input from other people. But if I would step into Russian culture or Japanese culture, how would people bow to each other, and different bows, and what it means to bow this much, 30%, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, or 10 to 15 degrees, everything. It has a lot that a person needs to learn, and I do not think that a person who's alien to that culture can do it. But what I can provide is the know-how, how it works to make such a book, what it needs to develop such a book. But I will need to have a full team who will do most of the leg work, the day-to-day work in collecting the material, in verifying the material, in discussing the material, having focus groups, and a lot of work. So I don't think that I would be the right person to do that. I believe that many of our Russian colleagues can do a very fine job, but it will be interesting to compare between the Arabic nonverbal communication and the Russian nonverbal communication on the other side. I believe that it will be a very interesting thing. And I believe that any Russian who would read my book would draw that comparison all the way long.
Thank you so much. I guess that there is one more question from Flora. So we'll listen to you. Flora?
Hello.
Hello, Flora.
السلام عليكم يا أستاذ.
وعليكم السلام. أهلا وسهلا.
I wrote a diploma at university about communication between Arab Gulf countries and European countries. And nonverbal communication was part of my research.
How interesting.
Yes,
Great
and
minds
do you want
think
to
alike.
write?
Great minds think alike.
Thank you, shukran. Do you want to write in your book about nonverbal communication between Arabic, for example, Qatari culture and European culture?
My book, which is this book, this is my my own copy. So I have a lot of in my book. This is in particular to describe the Qatari culture. So I don't tend to draw a lot of comparisons unless I need to originate one of the signs. As example, kissing the shoulder of the Emir. This was borrowed from Najdi culture back in the mid 80s. Or I want to draw something as example, this sign is not an Arab sign. It's being borrowed from Roman culture, or this sign as example, this is being borrowed. But what I discussed here is any sign that is used and understood by Qataris these days. Obviously, there will be things in common with other cultures, but there are things that are specific to Arab cultures, and things that are specific to Gulf cultures, and then narrowing it down, as we explained earlier, to Qatari culture. However, it will be always interesting, and that's where comparative studies come. It's always interesting to have comparative studies between different cultures, and people who live in different cultures and see these things, they will be always amused and amazed as well of the differences they see.
شكرا جزيلا.
Well, the time is about to be over, and I guess all the listeners got rid of their hesitations. And the Russian Middle East Associations, thank you very much for the cooperation, for the presentation of your book and the Qatari culture. And it was the real pleasure to listen to you and to spend this evening like this.
Thank you so much, and I hope that you and the listeners found something that's beneficial, informative, and interesting. I hope so. I've done my best. So if there was any weakness or any flaws, it was because of my shortcomings. But I keep learning. It's a learning curve by all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Everything was perfect, by the way. So goodbye to everything.